everyone, it has been a minute since I've made a video. I don't care. um, yeah, I just haven't had time to make videos, if I'm gonna be honest. Like, I've just been busy, but now that it's summer, no school and everything, I'll probably make more videos. Yeah, anyway, for my first video back, I thought I'd do something simple, and it's going to be a character analysis of Yelan, the new Genshin character. I was lucky enough to pull her, and so I'm gonna give my thoughts on her. Is she as good as I thought she would be, or is she literally just Xingqiu 2.0? So yeah, let's get into it. First off, the most important test. How do you sprint on controller? I have never played a controller. How easily does she murder Timmy's pigeons? Alright, she gets an S rank for that. Okay, so I think the first thing I'm going to do is just go through her kit, talk about it, you know, give my thoughts. First off is her charge attack, of course. So, Yelan has a special charge attack where sometimes when her... I don't really know how it... Hold on. You know what, maybe we should, like, read the thing. Yeah, so after 5 seconds of not being in combat, her bracelet will start glowing and she'll get a special charge attack. And this special charge attack does a big burst like that. And all the other ones are just your basic normal attacks. I'm gonna be honest. When I get away from me, Hilly Charles. Get. No, I'm. Get out of here. Leave me alone. Comparing her to Ganyu, you get one attack, and then the rest of them are just normal. And there's no way to recharge it because the only way to recharge it is not being in combat. Okay, well that's not accurate because I'm not in combat right now. But then with Ganyu, sure it takes longer to charge, but she does it every single time. And if we go over those hilly churls over there,
we're way behind schedule.
Ganyu does a lot more damage than Yelan when it comes to charge attacks. Oh my gosh, aiming with bows in this game is so weird on controller. Like, look at that. Ganyu crit for 22k and Yelan crit for 70k. And, I mean, sure, talent levels are different. Like, for example, I have Ganyu's at 10 and Yelan's at 8, but it shouldn't be that much of a difference. Yelan's charge attack, in my opinion, is kind of underwhelming, but that is not what she is meant for. What she's meant for is what I'm going to talk about next, her skill and her burst. Yelan's skill is very unique. So pretty much you enter like this dash form. Every enemy you run around gets tied up, and then you let go, and all of the enemies you tied up take damage and get pulled towards you a little. And honestly, I really like this elemental skill. Like, it's a good, if you crit, it's a good solid damage form. Like, watch this. Right there, 15k if you crit on a skill, which in my opinion is pretty good, especially if you can do it to multiple enemies. And I also think it's a good way to group enemies if you don't have access to an animo support to group them up. I think, personally, my thoughts on this skill is that it's very unique, very fun, and very good. I think it does a lot of things. Solid damage, grouping, and also probably my favorite part of the skill is that it ignores shields, which is very nice. For example, if you're using Raiden National, you don't really have anyone good to take care of Geo shields, because you don't have a Claymore character, you don't have a Geo character. And so Yelan is really nice for this because her attacks just ignore shields. It's great. It doesn't ignore elemental shields, which makes sense, but like physical shields that the enemies hold, it's very nice for that. Up next, I want to talk about Yelan's burst. Her burst, unlike her E, is not very unique. It's literally the exact same as Xingqiu's burst. You create extra hydro damage even when off field. Like here, let's beat up this Ruin Guard. So yeah, you do an initial hit, and then every hit you do deals an extra instance, 3 extra instances of hydro damage. Yeah, that burst is the reason people call her Xingqiu 2.0, because it is pretty much the exact same as his. During that Ruin Guard fight, you saw that every crit was doing about 5 to 6,000 per hit. So now that all lasts for, let's see, let's pull up the character sheet. That burst lasts for 15 seconds. Let's imagine that you get a hit of the extra hydro damage every second. 15 times 5,000, that's about 75,000 throughout a burst. Which, for a character they advertised as a DPS, honestly really isn't that strong when you've got characters like Ayaka who can literally one-shot Child with her burst. But although her burst isn't that strong for a standalone DPS, I think in teams where she's a backup off-field DPS, she's excellent because she has a skill which it's a passive skill. I literally closed out of the character menu and have to go back into it now. Right here, adapt with ease. So long as exquisite throws in play, your own active character deals 1% more damage, and this is increased by a 3.5% damage every second. So, and it can stack to be 50%. So, as her burst is active, your character who's active, and it doesn't even have to be her, is doing 50% extra damage towards the end of her burst, which is very, very good. For example, let me show you how fast Yelan in a Raiden team destroys bosses. Right, so to show off what Yelan can do on other teams, I've subbed her for Xingqiu slot on Raiden National, and I'll use the Primo Geo Bishop here as a training dummy. I'll just, hold on. Let me see when he goes out of this little startup phase. I don't really fight this boss that often. Alright, there we go. I did not mean to do that. I messed up the rotation. Either way. See, with Yelan on the team, during her burst, Raiden was able to hit a 26k with one of her basic attacks. Which, for a basic attack, that is a lot. And it was able to do half the health of the Primo Geo Bishop. So just doing that rotation twice with Yelan on the team, that was very strong. So I think Yelan, I'm just leaving the boss. No, get out. Let me, there we go. I'll just teleport over here. So I think Yelan's burst is very strong, but when you partner it with someone else. I think if you're just using Yelan alone as the DPS, it's not very... you're not using it to its potential. Okay, up next, I'd like to talk about some builds that you could use with her. Maybe, like, I'll talk about her weapon and some artifact sets. Discuss my thoughts on those. And then, yeah, I'll just give my final thoughts on Yelan and wrap up the video. This is Yelan's bow, Aqua Simulacra, and it increases HP by 16%, and when opponents are nearby, the damage by the wielder of this weapon is increased by 20%, and it has a main stat of crit damage. And this bow is a very strong bow. Like, it's actually Ganyu's best in slot bow now if you're using a freeze team. However, this bow isn't very effective for Yelan. Other bows, like Elegy of the End, fill the slot for her weapon a lot better than this. Don't get me wrong, this is definitely her second best in slot. It's just this was designed with the purpose, I feel like, of Yelan being your primary DPS, but that's not really the case if you're using her optimally. If you're using her optimally, she'll be off field most of the time. And although this weapon's buff does take effect when you're off field, that's like it's still not the best for her compared to other bows like Elegy of the End. And honestly, even the stringless might be stronger for her than this bow because of its increase to damage and burst, because the main thing you'll be using her for is her burst. So that's why Elegy and Stringless might be better than this for her, because those both rely on using your burst and are more focused into that, where this is just an all around damage. But Yelan's a burst damage, not an all around damage. So I think this bow is a good bow, just not for Yelan. Okay, so now I'd like to talk about some artifact sets for Yelan. Definitely the first best in slot is Emblem of Severed Fates, because this set increases energy recharge by 20%, and it increases burst damage by 25% of energy recharge. So if you do an energy recharge build, it will increase her damage of her burst a lot, and also she'll be getting her burst back pretty much every time you use it in a rotation, which is very good because for Yelan, in an off-field DPS team where she's optimal, you're going to want her burst all the time. Other good options, however, could be the Noblesse Oblige set, where it increases burst damage by 20%, and using a burst increases all party members' attacks for 20 seconds. This is very strong too. However, you only need one Noblesse per team because the effect of increasing attack cannot stack. So when you're using her in a team with Bennett, for example, where he's already using it, it's better to have Emblem on because Emblem gives more buffs instead of giving another buff which can't be repeated like this. Another one that could be okay is the Heart of Death set, which increases hydro damage, and after using a skill, normal and charge attack damage is increased by 30%. Like, the secondary buff just isn't that good for Yelan. However, the hydro damage bonus could be good. It just doesn't add up to Emblem of Severed Fates. I got something that could be maybe fun to experiment with, which I might do more, is using one Heart of Death, or two Heart of Death, and two Noblesse Oblige, because then you get burst damage, and you get hydro damage, which could maybe give more damage than Emblem of Severed Fates, but it all depends on how good her recharge is while you're using it. Maybe I could experiment more, make a follow-up video on it, but definitely her best in slot is Emblem of Severed Fates, and it is very, very strong for her, because, like, you get her burst back very, very quickly. So yeah, all in all, with my final thoughts for this video, I think that Yelan is a very strong character. I think that she can fill the spot of a grouper in very popular teams that don't use an Animo support, like Raiden National, or certain Hu Tao teams. And I think her burst is very good for support, especially considering that you do a lot of damage off field with it, and it increases the damage of your active character. So if you're using it while you have your main DPS out, they're doing a lot more damage. I think that, however, Hoyoverse advertised her as something different than she should be used for. They advertised her as a main DPS who could maybe potentially fill the support slot, but I think that overall she's actually better as a support because you're giving damage increases to your main DPS, and she's good at grouping, which is a lot better than slotting her as a DPS because there are just other DPS options that are better, like Raiden Shogun, Ayaka, Ganyu. So all in all, I think she's definitely not just Xingqiu 2.0. I think, although her burst is similar, her kit is very unique and a lot different than Xingqiu's kit, and I think she's actually better than Xingqiu in a lot of teams. So yeah, there's my thoughts on Yelan. I think she's a very strong character, and I do not regret pulling for her at all. Thanks for watching. Okay, well, in all seriousness, though, I did not mean to do that. God, I don't like controller. How do I even open my map on controller? What? What? Oh, there. Wait, what? Okay. Controller, wrong button. There we go. No, that's the map. What? Do you do you want to work? Oh, wait, I know how this menu works. Okay. It's not what it is. Wait, where do you change your party on this? Do you have to go into, like, the menu? Wait, how do you even go into the menu? God, I don't like controller.